special meeting through and read them off.
Okay,
You know how that goes.
I know how that
You
goes.
get it.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to come out of executive session.
I
moved.
second it.
Mr. Rufner,
Yes.
Ms. Stimpert,
Yes,
Ms. Benitez.
Yes,
and then at this time, I'd just like to make a statement that we interviewed three very positive candidates and applicants for Ward 3, and at this time, we are going to thank them and appreciate that they've stepped up. We're going to continue to interview, and just to show that we are looking for the absolute very best, we'd like to give a little more time. We've only been advertising for a little less than 2 weeks. So we're gonna see if anybody else steps up, and we will make a final decision, hopefully by year end. So, we had three very amazing candidates, and, I think we're gonna continue to look just for a few more and make sure we make a very good decision for Ward 3 representation. And at that, any comments?
I just want to reiterate, yes, thank you all for coming in, the applicants. Very good interviews, appreciate your time spent. As Ms. Stemper said, we are going to go ahead and continue with applications, so if anybody feels that they were shortchanged or didn't have time to get their resume put in, we're going to continue that going out. I'm not saying anything negative about the applicants we got, just making sure that we have, everyone has had the opportunity to apply.
motion.
Yep.
I'll make the motion that we accept,
Adjourn.
adjourn.
I'll second.
Ms. Benitez,
Yes.
Ms. Stimpert,
Yes.
Mr. Rufner.
Yes.
6:01.
And with that, are we ready to start our regular meeting? Okay. I'd like to call the Newton Falls City Council regular meeting to order at 6:01.
And again, we need a motion to determine the presiding officer for this meeting. So someone will make a nomination.
I'll make a motion to appoint Ms. Stempert as the acting chair for tonight's meeting.
I second it.
Ms. Stimpert,
Yes.
Ms. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Rufner.
Yes.
Pledge allegiance? Everybody go stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a moment for silent prayer. Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Ms. Stimpert,
Yes.
Mr. Rufner,
Yes.
Ms. Benitez.
Yes.
Okay, are there any changes to tonight's agenda? I would like to add a motion to change the date for the next meeting to December 19th at 2023 at 6 o'clock.
I'll second the motion.
Can you repeat the motion, please?
A motion to change the date from Wednesday, December 20th to Tuesday, December 19th for the next meeting.
Mr. Rufner,
Yes.
Ms. Stimpert,
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Do we have any special presentations?
Just to clarify, so that the December 20th meeting's canceled and moved to, or it's actually not canceled, but it's moved to the 19th. So there would be no December 20th meeting, just so everyone's clear.
Correct. Okay. Public comments are to agenda items only. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Kropp, 247 Elizabeth Street. The only thing I wanted to address was the minutes. Before the minutes are approved from the previous meeting, during the public comment section of the previous meeting, the minutes as they were recorded are inaccurate. Some of the statements that were made are noted incorrectly and out of order as far as being non-verbatim minutes. I would ask that council would have the last sentence of my public comment section stricken from the record. Because that was not what was stated and not how it was stated, and it is also not at the time that it was stated in that meeting. Thank you very much.
Adam Zimmerman, 515 LeMay Avenue. Just a few questions I have on the appropriations tonight. I guess actually one question. I see in the appropriations that now we're getting around to appropriate $12,000 for the senior kitchen. Just my question is, why are we appropriating $12,000 now? Haven't needed it all year. And I also see next year that in the budget, it is also $12,000 being appropriated for the senior kitchen. Just my only question was, we were always told that this was a self-serving, self-funding thing, that the senior kitchen was taking care of itself. If this is the case, where did the money go? Why do we need $12,000 now? Also, next year for the budget, we see $125,000 for the zoning department. $125,000 for a department of one person, one part-time person. Even if we go to 2 part-time people, why do we need $125,000 in that budget? Going back to the appropriations for the senior kitchen, we've heard that there are no more senior lunches this year. That the senior kitchen is effectively closed for the rest of the year. These words came directly from our city manager, that the meals are done for the rest of the year. Then council will have to decide January 1st what they want to do with the program. If the meals are done as far as senior kitchen goes, why do we need to appropriate money into that fund? Thank you.
Rick Curlin, 1009 Wood Glen. I'm referring to the organization of having a committee, a council committee, handling certain things which are administrative and setting up committees. The success, first of all, of having committees right now and in the past are terrible. You have civil service that needs people, Parks and Rec that needs people, zoning that needs people. Why should anyone think that there's going to be any success forming another committee to be redundant? Right now, the park benches is handled by Park and Rec, if we can ever get enough people to be in it. Why would we want to do something with the kitchen? Again, we've been talking about the kitchen for so long that it's wrong, it's not right, incorrect. Scope, city manager and her team feed a lot of people for $3 that Scope gets. It's licensed. There are donations that come in all the time. This is hurting our seniors. And another thing, why in heaven's name would someone tell me what I want to eat? I'm a senior. If I want a 2-pound steak, I'll eat it. If I want Cheerios, I'll eat it. If it's not good for me and I want it, I'm going to eat it. No one should tell anybody, a senior or anyone else, how to spend their money. This is just more government control over something that is redundant. I haven't seen anybody here that's present right now eating at the senior kitchen. You don't know what it's about. You don't know the camaraderie that's constructed. You don't know or pay attention to the multitudes of people signing petitions to keep it the way it's going. This is something for the community to help our seniors. And now we want to have a commission or a committee. And first of all, I don't believe you're doing this according to the council rules. Council committees, this should be made by a motion. It says right here.
3 minutes up.
Council committees also have no administrative authority. Time? Okay, I'll close with this. Council committees have no administrative authority. None. That's what it says in our charter.
Your time's up, sir.
Who's telling me my time's up?
I'm telling you, your time's up, sir.
I don't recognize this meeting, so I'll continue to talk. It says in here, council committees.
Mr. Curlin, your time's up.
Thank you.
Heidi Zimmerman, 515 LeMay Avenue. I am a member of the Parks and Recs Committee, and I would like to correct the statements just made earlier. The Veterans Bench Program, any of the bench programs are not from the Parks and Recs Committee. They should be. We had some questions. We asked the city manager about that when she introduced it. We wanted to know things like the cost and where they came from and everything. And we were told that we weren't going to get the answers, and as a matter of fact, we weren't in charge of the benches anymore. So I just wanted that stated for the record.
Brenda Cran, 571 Ridge Road. For those people that are talking about the senior kitchen, if you've never been there, you haven't seen the compassion, you haven't seen the friendships that have come out of it, you haven't seen some of these seniors who have cried because Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, they're actually getting home-cooked meals. We have one lady who has actually said, if it wasn't for the senior kitchen, she would not be eating healthy. She didn't know where some of her food was coming from. I don't know where you guys are getting your figures from. I really don't care. I do know that Pam has put a lot of effort into it. She's put her own money into it. She has put her own heart into it. And it seems like people cannot and will not, out of vengeance, they want to shut this program down. If you could come in there and you could sit and you could eat and you could see these people as they cry or as they're happy or whatever it is they're doing, maybe you'd have some compassion and maybe you'd understand what these people are going through. Thank you.
Condi Barry, 326 Washington. I believe the senior kitchen is a great thing, but once you ask the taxpayers to put money in for it, then every taxpayer that lives in Newton Falls has something to say about it. The self-sufficient, it is a great thing. I donated to it. It's great. But now you want taxpayers' money, so people, we it should be looked into what's the best way to spend the money. When it's self-sufficient, then we should keep our hands off it, but if the taxpayers are paying for it, then we have something to say about it. Every taxpayer.
Okay, if there's no more public comments, we'll move on to reports. Acting mayor is not here. Mr. Rufner, do you want to start with your reports, please?
Actually, I have no reports tonight. Thank you.
Mrs. Benitez, do you have anything?
I would just like to thank the people that put their confidence in me, and hopefully I can serve my ward in a very good way. Thank you.
The only thing I have, we had the turkey raffle for the fire board, and it was a very successful event, as it is every year. And I thank all those who came out and supported them. That's all I have. Mr. Housley, do you have a report?
Just that month of November is closed. It was closed on Monday. I thank my assistant. She's very proficient at getting things done in my office. You all received the reports Monday before noon, and they were all uploaded today, shortly before the meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for the finance director? Law director, Mr. Bryan, do you have a report?
Yeah, just an explanation to council and the audience. We have a unique situation where the acting mayor and member of council is not here. So we have 3 members of council present. We now have a new charter amendment in place. Article 3, Section 16 was amended, which states when there's a vacancy on council, all ordinances require 3 readings with 2 weeks in between each reading for passage, to allow them to be passed, unless on second reading it passes by a 4/5 vote of the members of council. So it would take 4 affirmative votes to pass something on second reading rather than going to 3 readings. So with respect to tonight's agenda, you do not need a 4/5 vote, though, to pass legislation for a first read, or a second read that would need a third read. So if anything needs to be passed tonight, it would take 3 votes of everyone here. So we can certainly go forward with the public hearings, just going over the agenda and have those. You can take a vote on the unfinished business, the electric rate and the purchase of the chemicals. That would, if it would pass with a 3-person vote, it would be a second reading, and then it would need another third reading in order to be passed. As far as the new business items, the ordinances, you can consider those, and if you want to move forward with the first reading on those, would require a unanimous vote. If you don't want to move forward with the first reading, that's fine. You can amend an ordinance. I'm going to ask that 2023-50, which is an emergency legislation, which could pass, which can't pass because you can't get a 4/5 vote, but I'm going to ask that it be amended for the further reading next meeting, and the resolution can be acted on. That would require 3 votes for that to pass, and the motion would just be a majority of those present, so it would take 2 votes to pass any type of motion. Since there's 3 people here, and that's a majority of those present. So if anyone's any questions throughout the meeting, feel free to ask, but hopefully I was clear. And that's all I have, Ms. Stimper.
Attorney Bryan, do we want to go through each ordinance and postpone them? Or can we do a mass of them? What
Yeah,
would you
that's up to
recommend?
you. Right, I would go through each ordinance and just decide what you're gonna do individually on each ordinance. And if you do have a new council person in place for the next meeting, that 3 reading requirement wouldn't apply, so.
Okay. Okay, City Manager, do you have a report?
Yes, just a few things here. You all received the sheriff's report in your packets, and also just to talk a little bit about when it comes up, the tree trimming. You'll see in your packets there was a thing for the tree trimming in there. What they're doing right now is, because we're getting into the winter season, that they're just doing some hot spots at this point. Really, they're problem areas, bad problem areas, so they need to get those down first before winter hits, and because they could cause line damage and things like that. So that's why that's on there as far as the tree trimming goes. And then also, just to let everybody know, the village applied for a $2.5 million river project grant, which also included the downtown area. We were notified the other day that we had to split the project into two different categories, because one part of it was going to be for the downtown area, the other part of it was for the river project. And the Eastgate notified us that we were selected to move forward to the next level of the grant with the application to the Appalachian Community Grant Program for our Commerce Park River project. So it's it's almost 1.3 million, it's 1.2 something million, so 1.219 million. So it will be moving forward to its next levels, and if anybody wants to see copies of the pictures that we have or what they're planning on doing, I have also been working on another grant opportunity for the downtown district for $500,000, and then another grant for another $1 million. So we have some different opportunities that have been made available to us, and hopefully, you know, they're not through the Appalachian Grant Program, but there are other grant opportunities that have come up that we're making some moves on to apply for. So if you have any questions or want to see the layout that they have, it looks very nice. There's going to be kayak launches, another kayak launch there. There's going to be stairs built for the northern kayak launch. They're actually going to have two kayak launches, one on one side of the dam, and then obviously we have the one on the other side of the dam. So there will be actually two kayak launches there. You could actually put a boat on the other side of the dam that goes towards Braceville. They will have riverside picnic areas. There will be sheltered picnic tables, restrooms, a lot of different things, a fishing pier for people to fish. So it's gonna have a totally different look down there. So if anybody's interested in looking at it, I have some pictures and the cost analysis if you want to take a look. With that being said, that's all I have. We have some other stuff on there as far as like the sheriff's agreement, and everybody, I believe, got a copy of that. And also the truck for the wastewater plant is in there. Mike has needed a new truck and for the wastewater plant, so he has started it now because the quote's only so good for so many days, so he's not purchasing it or wants to purchase it in 2024. So we've started the process now for that, so we can get it through its readings to make sure that it's in there for 2024. So with that being said, that's all I have to report at this time.
Any questions?
Real quick, just for a point of clarification on the grants, when you say next level, we've been advanced to the next level, is that an award or just the next step?
The next step, what happens with the Appalachian grant is that we have been selected to move it forward to the state for them to approve the grant. So and what they tell me is that once you're at that level, for the state to say basically no is probably slim to none, but it still could happen. So they have advanced, I believe, close to, with these projects, I think it was close to 10 million they're advancing forward for this portion of it. So for the rivers and the park projects, there was a little over 10 million that are moving forward.
So with that moving forward, when will we, or when can we expect to find out whether or not it gets awarded?
I believe in January is when they will know, at that next level. The state keeps moving dates, so everything has changed, but, in January, sometime in January, we're supposed to.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mrs. Benitez, do you have anything for the?
Not at the moment.
Okay, all right, very good. Before we move forward with approval of the minutes, do we want, can we put a motion on the floor to excuse acting Mayor Bariak? It dies for lack of second. Okay. Approval of the previous minutes.
Question for Law Director. With regards to Mr. Kropp's comments regarding the way the minutes were written up, do those need to be looked at again, or is it?
It's up to council, so you can postpone consideration of the minutes until the next meeting, ask Mr. McComb to take a look at it, or someone can make a motion to amend them this evening and approve them as amended. It's the council.
So since I don't have an actual list of what all the amendments would be, I make a motion that we postpone that till the next regular meeting. And
I'll
again, Mr. McComb to review and verify the verbiage and statements made on the minutes.
I will second that.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Stemper?
Yes. Okay, just for clarification, we can move forward with the public hearings?
That's correct.
Okay. Clerk, will you read?
Yes, ordinance 2023-45, version 2, an ordinance amending the electric rates.
Okay, we'll close that. And then, Mr. Acomb, can you read ordinance 2023-46?
Ordinance 2023-46, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into contracts specified herein for the purchase of chemicals needed by the Village of Newton Falls Water Plant for the calendar year 2024.
Okay, we'll close that as well. Moving on to unfinished business. Ordinance 2023-45. You call the roll? Yes, sorry.
Ordinance 2023-45, version 2, an ordinance amending the electric rates.
And just for clarification, you can go forward, have a second reading on it, but you could not have a third reading under the rules with the charter rule with the ordinance short, because the next meeting on the 19th wouldn't be 2 weeks from tonight, it would be less than 2 weeks. So if you postpone it, and have another council person at the next, at the start of the next meeting, those rules are off. If you have a second reading tonight, it's not going to be good for the help for the meeting on the 19th, so it's up to you. So you might as well postpone.
I'll make the motion to postpone.
I'll second.
And again, we're just clarification, we're postponing it until, for consideration on the meeting for December 19th.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes. Okay, read ordinance 2023-46.
And I would have the same comments for this ordinance.
Ordinance 2023-46, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into contracts specified herein for the purchase of chemicals needed by the Village of Newton Falls Water Plant for the calendar year 2024.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone.
Second.
And again, clarifying, it's to postpone consideration until the December 19th meeting.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Okay, under new business, we have ordinance 2023-47.
Ordinance 2023-47, an ordinance authorizing certain amendments to the appropriations for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2023, and authorizing the finance director to amend and file a certificate of resources with the county auditor.
This falls into the same category.
Yes.
Motion to postpone until our next scheduled meeting of December 19th.
I'll second.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
3 votes, they're dead. Won't count as a, because the next meeting's not 2 weeks, it's 13 days.
Ordinance 2023-48.
Ordinance 2023-48, an ordinance establishing the annual operating budget and setting forth the appropriations for 2024.
Again, we need a motion to postpone.
Until the December 19th,
19th.
2023 meeting.
I'll second. Oh, no, I made the motion, sorry.
You made the motion. I thought you-
Motion.
Need a second?
I'll
Didn't you
second.
second?
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2023-49.
Ordinance 2023-49, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement purchase a 2023 Ford F-350 truck for Sarshone Ford Lincoln for use by the wastewater department.
I'll make the motion to postpone for consideration at our next scheduled meeting of December 19th.
I second it.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2023-50.
And Ms. Stibbert, if I can be heard on this after Mr. Combe reads the ordinance?
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-50, an ordinance amending Chapter 191 of the Village's Administrative Code, the Village Tax Code, to conform to the requirements set forth in Ohio House Bill 33.
Okay, just an explanation of this ordinance. House Bill 33 made some amendments to the state tax code. It applies to municipalities. So we are required to amend our tax code to conform with those changes. They aren't as extensive as they were in 2015, 16, 17. They're primarily related to not being permitted to make persons under 18 pay income taxes. There's some filing requirement, minor changes, and most of them relate to people working at home for companies that are located elsewhere and allowing people to have their place of taxation where they work from home. So we want this to be effective January 1st, 2023. So I would ask the council not consider the ordinance tonight, but move to amend it to emergency legislation. So those amendments would consist of, in the title, calling it an emergency ordinance. And then in section 3 of the ordinance, that it would say that this ordinance shall be effective as of January 1st, 2024. And then the actual body of the ordinance on page 1, I did make a mistake. The title, Chapter 191, right on the first page, right at the top, income tax effective January 1st, 2016 is crossed out, 2024 is underlined. That should say still effective January 1st, 2016. So the amendment would be to remove the strikeout from 2016, remove 2024 entirely, and the way it would work if the ordinance would pass would be the sections that aren't amended would still remain in place. The sections that are amended would, the publishing company publishes it, will add the new effective date under those sections that are being amended. The old sections will have the date they were previously amended. So I would ask someone from council to make that motion and take care of the amendment today, and then just postpone consideration of the amended ordinance. Well, we don't even need to postpone. It'll move on to another reading at the next meeting as emergency legislation at that time. So.
Okay, so just to clarify, we're just amending it?
Yes, we're
tonight?
amending it essentially to become emergency legislation.
And
Mechanically, as I talked, it'll be on the agenda for the next meeting as emergency legislation, and then the one just amendment to the title of the exhibit would be amended.
Okay. I will make the motion to do everything he just said.
I'll second it.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Stemper?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to ordinance 2023-51.
Ordinance 2023-51, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the bid of Hilsher Clark Electric for tree trimming services.
The motion to postpone,
Till the December 19th
sorry,
meeting.
yes, to 2019, 2023, sorry. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Sorry.
Moved by Mr. Rufner. Ms. Stemper?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2023-52.
Ordinance 2023-52, an emergency ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Trumbull County Sheriff for police protection services.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I did.
Yes.
Any discussion?
I said second.
No, discussion. Do you have anything to say?
Oh.
Questions?
Sorry.
No,
I
it's
did
okay.
all of this. Well, I guess we don't have much of a choice at this moment, correct? And I said it's for it.
Well, yeah, if I can be heard.
Yes.
All right, there's not a sufficient amount of votes to pass this evening because we need 4/5 majority with 3 people here. You can't achieve that threshold, so if we take a vote on it, it wouldn't pass and it would fail. That's what council wants. You could do that. If you postpone it to the next meeting, obviously, there's a motion later in the meeting to form a committee to discuss options for bringing back the police department, joint police district, evaluating the sheriff's option. The sheriff's contract does have a 60-day clause to get out of it. I certainly think you're not gonna be able to reinstate the village police department by January 1st or come up with some other option. So as Ms. Benitez said, there really aren't too many options for making sure there's police protection in the village starting January 1st. So I don't know if we want to postpone consideration of this until the next meeting, or you want to move forward with a vote. It's up to council.
Am I proper for making the motion postpone since it is up for discussion at this point?
Yes, that would take precedent over the,
All right, so I will make the motion to postpone action on this ordinance until further consideration at the December 19th meeting.
I'll second that.
Call for the roll.
Ms. Stimpert,
Yes.
Mr. Rufner,
Yes?
Ms. Benatus.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2023-53.
Ordinance 2023-53, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into and execute various contracts with Pan American Insurance Group for employee health care insurance and benefits.
Ms. Stimbert, the city manager asked if she could be heard on this.
The same thing's gonna happen, with the tax code on this. The coverage is effective January 1. If we don't pass it by emergency at the next meeting, if we did it this meeting and then had the second reading, and it wouldn't be the 2 weeks either, correct? So
Well,
it would
emergency,
have to pass then by
right,
emergency.
right.
Because the coverage is supposed to be effective January 1, and it will not be effective at that time if we have to wait.
Okay,
So do we want to amend it as an emergency for the next meeting?
That would be the suggestion.
okay, does somebody want to make the amendment? Or
Yeah,
put
it
on
would,
the floor for
the
discussion?
title would be changed to say it's an emergency ordinance, and then the emergency clause would be added for the reason that we need the employee insurance benefits effective and paid for prior to the first of the year, so the coverage continues as of January 1st.
Okay, yeah, I would like to put this on the floor for discussion, so can we call roll?
This is a motion to amend?
We read the ordinance, right?
We did.
Yeah, I want to put just the ordinance
Yeah.
on the floor to discuss.
Yeah, put some, yeah, you could move to put it on the floor for discussion purposes, if you get a
Moved by
second.
Stimpert,
Yes,
seconded by
I'll second it.
Rufner. Vote,
No, discussion.
discussion.
just discussion. So I have some questions, because we are sitting at December 6th. We know this has to be passed. In our packet, all we had was like the grid, or the contract, the information for this particular company. Have you gone out for bid?
Yes, we have.
When did we do that? Like, why 3 weeks before we have to do this, it's coming to us in an ordinance with no sponsor?
With no what?
There was no sponsor on this when the agenda was sent out to us. So there's been no communication with myself, I don't know about the other officials, about the insurance, what you've looked at, what the packages look like, why we chose this company, not the other two, what the employees are saying.
Well, as far as the employees, they seem to be happy with it. They have not had any questions. The reason we are staying with this company is that we've had a number of large claims this past year. Mr. Housley and I discussed it, and actually up until I believe it was just a couple days ago when I sent it to you, I originally sent Brad a quote that I received, but then it was revised, and then I sent him a second one because we were able to, with some additional medical information, get the rates lowered a little bit compared to what they were. The other quote that we have, Sean, what was it, close to $80,000, and they'd have to go through medical underwriting at that time. So this one at this point is the lower of the ones that were received.
How many were received?
Well, we received multiples from Medical Mutual, and we received multiples from WJL and a couple of other carriers besides Pan American, and some rejections because of the medical conditions that are there.
I would like to address, if permitted, too.
Go ahead, Mr. Astley.
I think it was 80,400 for medical mutual. The one item that I'd like to bring up regarding medical insurance, the way it works is it's a price guarantee. It's not an obligation to commit for all 12 months. So by approving this by January 1st, that doesn't mean you're committed through the end of next year. You literally could begin discussions over any proposals that she might have and consider other plans as early as January. I just wanted you all to be aware of that.
Rest to be recognized.
You may have the floor.
Additionally, my biggest concern, and I've had a lot of people contact me within the last few weeks, specifically regarding this issue regarding the healthcare. The biggest concern and question a lot of them have had is, why does it take so long to get claims processed? Why does it take so long to get claims paid? And why are our employees getting turned in for collections on payments that they show in the system as having been paid, but they haven't? And the only way they've been able to get it rectified is engaging the city manager in that aspect. They don't answer customer service care, if you want to call it that, from the understanding I've gotten.
Well, let me explain some things to you. When the employees do bring me what they have, 9 times out of 10, it's their issue. It's something that's went towards their deductible that they have not paid. They still have a $1,500 deductible that gets applied. Then after that $1,500, they're responsible for paying, or actually the city picks up what is considered or called an HRA. After that HRA pays, then everything's 100%. Since we had, that's one issue that I've seen, is that they're not paying their portion of the deductibles when they're getting their information. The second issue that I have seen with a lot of the providers, they're billing the employees for what is considered to be the discounted amount. And I've told the employees that a provider cannot do that. So I've taken the extra time to show them actually on the explanation of benefits and write to the provider myself and make sure that the situation gets rectified for them, because they cannot bill an employee for that discounted amount, but a lot of them are doing it because a lot of people have a tendency just to pay it and they're not supposed to. That's the other issue that I've been seeing on it. The next issue is the larger claims, because of the type of plan that we have, the larger claims that we have had. We have had 5 of them, 2 of them were well over $300,000. One of them was over $240,000. One was right around $150,000, and one was slightly over $100,000. And with those claims, they specifically have to go to Pan American for review. Pan American, even though WJL processes the claim, they do all the work up front and then have to submit it to the insurance carrier for their review and for them to look at, and then it comes back to them with the approval. And every person that occurred on, I have talked to and told them that there was going to be more of a delay on their claims because of that process. So they have understood that. But the most of what I'm seeing is they are not paying their portions of the deductibles.
Not exactly the understanding I've gotten, so that's why I question. We've sat up here before and said we need to do better to keep our good employees. We need to keep the good employees.
Yep.
Well, I'm not so sure this is actually doing anything to the benefit of keeping the good employees. If we continuously have employees going out, getting turned into collections, when one process or one form, when they log in, says it's been paid.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and get collection notice on the end. So
All they have
one payment says paid in full, so they're like, okay, paid in full, I'm good. Then they get a collections notice that their bill's been sent to collection.
All they have to do is submit that explanation of benefits to the provider showing the payment. That's all they have to do. If somebody's got a collection notice, and most of the time they are bringing them to me if they've gotten one. I haven't gotten that many. I know one individual brought me a whole envelope because his was one of the big claims. And probably, I'm gonna say out of this many, probably this many were ones that he did know. And then there were probably 6 or 7 that were applied towards his deductible that he owed. And he was turned into collection because he didn't pay his deductible portion. So I had to show him what he needed to do, actually write out on the explanation of benefits that you owe this amount of money. So if they're being turned into collection, 9 times out of 10, it's on something they owe.
Any more discussion? Moving on to resolution.
I'm sorry,
Moving on to resolution 38, 2023.
well, don't we have
Do we need to amend?
Yeah, do you want to amend it to emergency legislation for the next
or
meeting?
postpone it?
I would like to postpone it, and I would like to ask for council to be able to see the different quotes that were gotten and what was shared with the employees, and determining that this is the best option. And then I'll make a motion to postpone.
I second it.
All right.
Till the next
Postpone it
meeting.
until the December 19th meeting.
Sorry.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Did you-
Go ahead.
Ms. Stemper?
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
And what I can do then is introduce an emergency version at the next meeting, and you can have both versions on the agenda and decide what you want to do. So you would have the option of moving forward if you wanted to, you wouldn't have to.
Okay. Resolution 38, 2023.
Resolution 38-2023, a resolution establishing a Community Services and Activities Committee to solicit, evaluate, and recommend options related to community and senior services and activities provided by the village.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that one.
One of the sponsors here, and I would like to clarify, I'm not sure what the confusion would be on this. I am in full support of a senior kitchen. I'm in full support of community activities being held here at our administration building. I am not in support of taxpayer dollars being used. And so I sponsor this to get community buy-in, community support, to sustain and expand what we have, into even bigger and better. So that was my mind frame. That's my reasoning for sponsoring this resolution.
May I be recognized?
Yes.
I want to clarify one thing here, and there is no taxpayers' dollars being spent on that senior kitchen, and there never has been. It has been self-sustaining. Mr. Housley, can you explain what the appropriation is for? It's not for the kitchen itself. It has been self-sustaining since the day that it opened. It's been running on the donations, everything that we have purchased, and I think people are confused on how it operates. The village doesn't collect the money from the seniors. Scope does. Scope handles the dollars. Scope takes the dollars to the finance department, and that's where the finance department counts with Scope the amount of money that was collected for those meals, and then the finance department deposits it. There has never been one dime spent from those taxpayer money on that kitchen as far as the food and everything else that we have purchased. Now, the village did buy the oven that's in there and also did buy a freezer, but that's was just not for the senior kitchen itself. That was not, it was just to upgrade the kitchen that's in there. But as far as the program itself, it has been self-sustaining since day one with the donations. Can you explain the appropriations, Mr. Housley?
Would you like me to address?
Go for it. You have the floor.
So I'm going to presume that most of you really understand how the general governmental funds have been applied to that senior kitchen. So I do apologize if I'm restating some things that you know. But when it was in the general fund, it being commingled with all the revenues such as taxes and property taxes, it's confusing, it's really hard to decipher. So it makes sense why the community would believe, or that it would appear that general governmental dollars are being used for it. But what I did was created Fund 213, I think it is. And we did a reconciliation of all the donations that we collected. And we reclassified those out of the general fund, only the donations, into that Fund 213. So the revenue now posted in 213 is only donations from seniors collected just for that function. And what I also did was I reclassified the expenditures. That's what the legislation did. You know, I was involved with the writing of that legislation with Brad's assistance. And so what we did is we moved the revenues over and we reclassified only the senior citizen expenses. I'm going to exclude the purchase of equipment in that room for purposes of, for all intents and purposes right now. So I know there was a question about appropriations. Well, when we're increasing appropriations in 213 now, I can't have them more than what our resources would be. Those resources being only in that fund now, the donations from senior citizens. So when I increase an appropriation in 213, it's only from senior citizen donations, and it's not from other general governmental dollars, so that everybody understands it. And I am going to presume that most of you already knew that anyway. But the question about the refrigerator, for example, well, there's an item in that kitchen that does get paid for out of general governmental revenues. But it's also, the kitchen itself is also an asset of the community to be used for any purpose. And she has all the authority that she needs to use that room in any format she wants for any purpose. It just doesn't have to be senior citizens. Now, you can, if you wish, because this is entirely up to council how they want to manage this. I mean, you can require that the community center make some type of contribution back to the general fund from any revenues it collects to go towards equipment and maintenance. You can set the amount.
The community center?
The community services fund. So let's say that she has an event and she raises $1,000, or the city manager raises $1,000 in donations to pay for the event. You may decide that, of all the amounts collected, 3% or 5% has to go back to the general fund for just general maintenance. I mean, you can do things like that. And I hope I didn't make it any more confusing, and I hope that addressed all your questions about what pays for how the things are being paid for.
Does anybody have an address? I'll save my second. Go ahead, Mr. Rivner.
Since you brought up Fund 213 Senior Kitchen, I went back, I was using the October 2023 end of month numbers because I didn't have November at the time. In looking at it, as of the end of October, there was $804.26 left in that account. But if I looked at the remaining encumbrances expected for 2023, it's a $2,226 expected or anticipated expense when there's only $800 in the fund. That leaves a net negative of $1,421. So to say that it's fully self-sufficient, I'm sorry, I'm looking at numbers right off your end-of-month budget. It doesn't appear to be self-sufficient if we're gonna end the year in a negative. That's,
You may have an address. Go ahead.
Permission to address. So, again, I do have a final certificate to get over to the county. And I'm not permitted to request appropriations that exceed what I anticipate our revenues to be. So what I've done, which is in front of you, which we'll discuss again at the next meeting, is, and there's another way to do this too, there's always more than one way to do this. I have created the appropriations, and what I don't know, I believe that I may have, but I need to confirm because I know I have until December 27th to get them the final one for the year. They do have to set up the revenue side of it. And the only way around that predicament that you're looking at would have been for me to create an appropriation too within that same ordinance that created that fund. And since that was not done, we do have a little bit of a timing issue here. But I am trying to get that reconciled out. And there would not be general governmental resources used towards that fund's activity. If I can get everything approved through you all. That I can assure you.
Because right now, if I can be, if I can have an address, please.
You may.
Because as it sits right now, Sean, if I'm not mistaken, when Pam did the final tallies the other day, is that the fund was sitting right around $2,000.
2 or 3.
Because, well, I think after she did the receipts, it was down to about $2,000. I think it started out 27, but when she calculated all the receipts, it ended up right around $2,000 that was left. So having said that, I mean, that was just, I think she gave me the number on Monday, I think it was, that it was right around $2,000.
Well, I have one more.
Because, well, if I could add one more thing, is that we did have that turkey dinner that produced roughly around $1,000 that benefited the senior kitchen. So it brought the fund up.
One final address will be.
Final address.
I promise. Thank you all. And there is a possibility that purchase orders are too high. And that's, you know, I go through all the purchase orders and a reconciliation process to try to close every month. And sometimes I won't catch a purchase order that's too high until after the month. But I do eventually get caught up with them, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer to close the year because it takes a little bit more time. So there is a chance, in the circumstance that you described, that purchase order is just too high. Doesn't mean the money's been spent, it's just a reserve on cash. That's what a purchase order is.
Does anybody have a second? Okay, I would just like to address, I appreciate the time you guys spent defending how much and all that. Bottom line is, these are services that need to be sustained, regardless of who's here administration-wise, who's here legislative-wise, who's here citizen-wise. We need to provide these services, we need to continue doing that. In that same note, this is taxpayer dollars. You're getting paid taxpayer dollars to run this budget. We're getting paid taxpayer dollars to sit here and legislate things. City manager's getting paid taxpayer dollars to be organizing and running the kitchen. So bottom line, yes, this is something that the citizens need to be a part of, to sustain, to protect, to expand, and be a part of. That's the reason for my resolution. Does anybody else have a comment or discussion? We can put it to a vote, please.
All right, if
sorry.
I have a question. Okay, not about, all right, if the citizens paid for the industrial stove and the industrial refrigerator, okay? So that was taxpayer money. If I wanted to have a party there, you know, council maybe changes their mind and lets people use the great room. If I wanted to have a party there, am I allowed to use the kitchen?
I mean, it's the city manager that has the authority, I think, to approve any event. But as long as it was approved in the proper course, which I believe it's the city manager that have to make that decision, as long as she was okay with it. She could throw an event for the community out of there. Again, that would be something that you would want to run out of the new fund we recently created, and you wouldn't want to use general governmental dollars for it. You would want the proceeds from that event to go right back into 213, and to come back around to your question about the furnishings and equipment, and and this is not done, but this is something you can do in the future, is you can, you know, ask, or you can decide on a percentage of any collections to be contributed back to the general fund. It'd have to just go into the general fund, because the general fund pays for that equipment. We could monitor the amount that you collect to go towards that kitchen equipment in a separate account, and you might just do it for a little while until, let's say, you end up building a reserve of so many $1,000s that you decide. You can even build that into the legislation that we're gonna add on a certain percentage of all revenues collected to be paid back to the general fund until it reaches a certain amount. And then to be suspended until those dollars are needed for some purpose, and then when they are, be reenacted until that, you know, just to maintain that balance. And that's how you can that's how you can end up paying for those assets that are shared.
But because is there a different licensure for it? Like, because I was told, I mean, I'm not an expert by any chance, but I was told that because of the license that they have, that nobody in the public can go in and use that kitchen because it's licensed for a certain whatever.
I'm just the accountant, no expert on licenses. That would be Brad and the city manager to figure out.
So, I mean, yeah, because they said you could use the great room, okay, but you couldn't use the kitchen.
May I
Mr.
have
Bryan,
an
or,
address?
yes, please.
As far as a commercial kitchen goes, it'd be no different that if my husband owns a restaurant, you cannot rent his facility and go in there and use his refrigerator.
Correct.
Okay, because you have contamination, you have a lot of different issues. So being a licensed kitchen, you could allow them to use the oven or the stove, but they would not be allowed to use the refrigerator or freezers, those type of things, because those are foods that are for a specific purpose and a possibility of contamination.
Right.
I mean, knowing you, I mean, I know you, but if I didn't know you and we rented it to the public and somebody went in there with,
No, I understand.
bad food.
There's the other small,
But would that ruin your life?
What's that?
there's the other smaller refrigerator.
Yeah, there's a refrigerator out, but that's Scope's refrigerator out there.
But would that ruin your license if, say, I went in there and I used your refrigerator or
Yes,
your stove? That would
can't
ruin your
do that.
license, correct?
you
That'd be
cannot do that.
That'd be against your license.
okay, right.
So my question is, so really, if I wanted to rent the great room for a party, that I could not really go in the kitchen, I'd have to bring my own groceries, et cetera, and I'd have to stay out of the kitchen, correct?
No, you could use the ovens, you could use the stove, You just could not use the refrigerator.
Oh, is that all?
And you could not use the freezer.
Oh, okay, all right.
You could not use any of those type things, but you can.
But I could use the stove.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, if you can call for a roll.
Ms. Stimpert,
Yes.
Mr. Rufner,
Yes.
Ms. Benitez.
Yes?
Resolution passes.
Okay, we have a motion.
A motion to establish a committee to solicit and evaluate options and costs related to the provision of police services for the village, consisting of 2 members of council appointed by council and 3 residents appointed by council, and to direct the clerk of council to post and advertise a request for residents interested in serving on the committee to submit letters of interest and qualifications to the clerk no later than Thursday, December 14th, 2023.
So moved.
Today's the 6th.
I'll second. It's not very much time, but that'd be next Thursday. I'll sorry, she asked me a question. I'll second.
Okay.
Again, this is just something that I feel like every constituent that I talk to wants to know why, how, what can we do, if there's any options. I would like to have, again, the citizens and council look at this, see what options there are, if any, present it to council, and be able to move forward, hopefully, with the best police protection we can have.
I'll say, my first or second?
It's discussion time.
Oh,
You have something to?
well, no, I agree, like I say, because that's one of my things that I really want. I mean, nothing against the deputies, et cetera, but I would like to have our own city police back, and if there's any way we can figure out how to do it, I'm all for it. And I'd like to serve on the committee.
Same thing. I mean, I get beat up a lot. I get asked a lot, hey, where's the police department? When's the police department coming back? Why don't we have one? Honest answer is no one has that answer right now. This committee is intended and being established to go out and look at the options. Full-time force, part-time force, blended force. Look at all the options. Don't just look at, well, Cleveland does this and Chicago does that. I really don't care. We're not there. We need to look at what Newton Falls can do and then present that to the community openly, legitimately, and upfront and say, if this is what you want, this is what it's going to take, and be fully out front with it, with plenty of time to discuss, question, and rationalize. There's no rush, there's no hurry. We're going to do this, we need to do it right. We need to know what assets we still currently have left over from the previous police department. Which ones are viable, which ones are not. How many vehicles do we have? How many are roadworthy? How many need repairs? What's that gonna cost? So we need to have all that data put up front. And again, make it to where the public is fully informed and understands what the options are one way or another. So, yes.
Any further discussion? Mr. Acomb, can you call for the roll?
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Stimpert?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Brian, just a couple questions. Because we have 2 council people to appoint, and we have information coming into the 14th, if we schedule a special meeting to address any more interviews, can we attend to the appointment of these 2 council members at that time? And also for when we have hopefully a fuller council?
Yeah, you could do it if it's on the agenda as an agenda item on the special meeting, or you could do it in the regular, make that appointment in the regular meeting, whatever.
Okay.
council's pleasure is.
Move to public comment.
Well, we have the
Oh, sorry.
motion for the moving of the meeting.
Sorry. We have the motion for the moving of the meeting. To move the meeting from December 20th to December 19th.
Oh, I make that motion.
I'll second.
Ready?
Yep.
Mr. Rufner,
Yes.
Ms. Stempert,
Yes.
and Ms. Benitez.
Yes.
Okay, now we'll move to public comments. And these are for non-agenda items as also.
Brian Kropp, 247 Elizabeth Street. I have two questions real quick. The first, and maybe Mr. Bryan can address this, as far as the charter amendments were concerned, those were approved, those were voted on, and did those go into effect immediately? Because I know we're 29 days out. I wasn't sure if there was, I know with the state and everything, and you can hold the app if you want to talk about that after. And then one other thing, I had some other things I wanted to talk about, but I was kind of disturbed a little while ago when Sean was talking, and he stated very clearly, and I hope the clerk captured this or noted it, that he said that he wrote legislation. Those words came out of his mouth. I don't recall his name ever being on a ballot. I don't recall him ever being elected. I don't think he even lives here in this town. I would like to know why an administrative assistant, a financial administrator, admittedly, himself came out of his mouth on council floor, on the record, said he wrote legislation. Now, our charter, I believe, is very specific on this. It says that you are an administrative staff and you are to assist the elected or appointed legislators. So what business do you have writing legislation for our community? You are, if I'm not mistaken, I think you're also one of the higher paid individuals here and you're part-time. You don't even work from here most of the time. You work from home. You work remotely. So again, I would ask, and maybe you can clarify, or maybe council can get to the bottom of this. I'd really like to know why an administrator, why on earth are you writing legislation? If you want to make a recommendation or assist these legislators that we elected as a body, as a community, if you want to assist them, that is your role. That is your job, and that's your title. And that's what you should do. Every one of you as administrators should be assisting these legislators. If you have something that you need put on an agenda, something you need presented to the community, you reach out to the legislators, or you reach out to the city manager, who will then reach out to the legislators, and they can decide whether or not they want to write that legislation on whatever behalf. But you, sir, have no right legally to write legislation, and you admitted yourself on council floor just a little while ago that you wrote a piece of legislation. So if someone could clarify that for me, and council, again, if you guys want to pursue this, I really hope you do, because that's not supposed to happen. So again, you offer that up yourself, and I'm just going to state that case again. An administrator, someone who's not an elected official, has never been on a ballot, not appointed, is an administrator, claimed that he wrote legislation that's been presented to council, or that council has voted on. So I think that's a huge concern. And lastly, I'll say this. This has been a wonderful meeting. It's been very quiet and calm, professional. It's nice to have adults running the meeting. Nobody's bullying anybody. You guys were asking questions. You're asking follow-up questions. You're articulating your points, and it was beautiful. It was a joy to watch. So I thank you, and I think the community thanks you as well for having people that are responsible adults in the room. So thank you very much. That was brilliant. I loved it. It was like Christmas. That was fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Adam Zimmerman, 515 LeMay Avenue. First of all, we really see why Mr. Bariak wasn't here tonight. I guess we see his going away present is giving a middle finger to the community that he supposedly loves by stalling all this legislation and not letting anything move forward. I will see if he's here for the next meeting to see if we can actually get some legislation done before the year is over. One of the things I wanted to bring up, this was in our packet, but I was hoping someone was going to discuss this tonight, was the fire inspection that was done back here on 9/28/23. This was in the packet, and no explanation was given why it was in the packet or what it needed to be talked about. But according to this, there are 15 unresolved corrective actions. Major one, pull stations, fire alarm pull stations that do not work here. Fire alarm boxes do not work. No Knox box on the outside. Things like occupancy permits on the doors. They're not, I can look around here, no occupancy permit here, no occupancy permit out there. Another one is extension cords being run in lieu of permanent electric wiring. These things all need to be addressed within 60 to 90 days of when this was issued, and I'm just looking around and seeing extension cords still being run as a permanent wiring through our facility. I just was hoping someone's gonna address that. Why were we having a senior kitchen in here, focusing all that money in the kitchen, but we have fire alarms and fire pull stations that, according to this report, did not work. Something else I wanted to touch on is what we touched on in the past, that once money comes into the city, whether it's a donation or whatever else, it becomes taxpayer dollars. It doesn't matter how it got here, but once it's in here mixed with our funds, it becomes taxpayer dollars. So any donation becomes taxpayer money. So to say anything that the city puts money into is not funded by the tax, once it comes taxpayer funds, once it comes in here, that's false. You made a statement by saying that you actually had no idea how much money was brought in by the senior kitchen. That the money, once it came in, it got mingled in other funds and lost. So you, according to what you said tonight, you have no true idea. So you appropriated exactly $12,000 for the senior kitchen. Now, also heard that Scope turned the money over every single lunch to the finance staff, where it was counted. So there should be a receipt of every dollar being collected every single day by our finance department before it gets turned in and deposited. So by saying that you have no idea what the money was, is either mismanagement of the money, spending the money on wrong things, or what, I don't know. But we also heard in the past that a lawnmower that was purchased by the city was billed totally to the Parks and Rec Department.
Ms. Stimpert, time.
Time, sorry.
Just to wrap that up, where you said that you did not know if it was shared properly amongst all the departments in town. So again, we just have to see the history of not knowing how our money is being handled.
Time.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no more,
Oh, here comes somebody.
sorry.
Philip Beer, 509 Ravenna Road. I'd like to welcome this council. I have confidence in you, and we may not always agree, but I think you guys are thinking people and you think for yourself. As far as the police department goes, I have no problem with the sheriff's department, but I want our police department back. And I want our police chief back in place. You are in charge of the city manager. If you instruct her that you want him to come back, she has to listen to you or she's insubordinate. But let's not even worry about that. All I want to say is, I think the reason why the police levy didn't pass was more a vote of inconfidence against the people that were running the government. Now that they're out, if we get a committee and we put up a levy, I think people will pass it. Now, we may not have the money to get it up and running the way that we would like it to be, but I think, and I've heard that the chief says that, you know, he can run the department. It's not going to be easy, but we need to get some policemen back in here. We need a policeman here to enforce what you say. That way, if somebody wants to just go on talking after their time's up and they don't want to listen to what you have to say, you can call the policeman in to escort them out. But, you know, there's rules, and if we follow the rules, we only have so much time to talk. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I bring attention to what you've passed as a resolution for the
Your
committee
name and address,
to,
please.
pardon me?
Name and address, please.
Rick Curlin, 1009 Wood Glen Avenue. And you seem to just ignore what I'm saying. I'll quote it. council by motion at any regular or special meeting may establish standing committees. And it continues to tell that what it is for, simply information. Now, what you approved as a resolution was very specific about how this committee is going to instruct people how to do things. The last thing on this where it says council committees. Council committees shall have no administrative authority. We seem to have a problem in this town understanding the difference between administrative and legislative. As proof positive is the referendum that was ridiculous and didn't go through because it's administrative. I'm simply saying that the resolution you passed as is not proper. You cannot have a committee doing anything administrative. Why isn't there an admin on this committee? Why isn't a finance officer or a law director on this to help you understand that about the senior kitchen? Because as is passed, it's not proper. That committee can do nothing. Nothing. They can't tell anybody what to do or anything else. And I think it's very sad that you would go after the senior kitchen like that. There hasn't been any money spent. And it's very sad, very sad.
If there's no further comments, closing remarks. Council members?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. With regards to the resolution that was passed that seems to be a bit of a concern, nowhere anywhere does it say that it has administrative authority. It is to sit down with members of the community and look at what options we have, what programs we have. Can the programs that we have be run differently? Or are there other programs out there that we could do in addition to? Nowhere does it say that they're directive. I don't understand where the confusion is. It's an advisory committee that can speak to the legislative actions of council or coordinate with the administrative head on any suggestions, updates, or whatnot. So the whole misconstrued understanding there is exactly that. Read it for what it says. Read it for what it is. Nowhere does it say it's actionable or administrative. So just leave it at that. The other thing I want to mention, a couple things. We still have multiple vacancies, Park and Recs, Planning and Zoning, so on and so forth. They're all advertised on the city's webpage, so by all means, if you're interested, I know I have had a couple of people reach out to me, you know, what all's involved here, what do we got to do? By all means, you know, if you're interested, go ahead and submit an application into the city clerk. Also, the Friday Night in the Falls, Late Night in the Falls, they're doing it this week and next week both. Local businesses will be open late. Again, support local, shop local, you know, move forward in our community. Other than that, that's all I've got.
Mrs. Benitez, do you have anything?
No, just other than today was a learning experience for me. Thank you.
I would just like to say thank you for running, stepping up, joining us up here. We appreciate it. You did a fine job this evening. You'll be just fine. A shout out to our downtown. Our street looks fabulous. The departments that help get the lights up and help them with their, you know, street closures and stuff like that. It's wonderful to see. They've got the ugly sweater thing going this Friday. I love to see the positivity.
The music is
downtown.
nice too.
The music is very nice. Thank you to Pam for that. And then my final statement is, just kind of to piggyback on Mr. Rufner, our commissions, our boards, we need good, strong boards to help us legislate and know what we're looking at, what we need, what the community sees. You guys see different things differently as residents, as constituents, than what we may be looking at when we're sitting up here as legislative or administrative. Again, some of the backing of why I have the motion and the resolution on here for these two committees. I want to work with the community. I know this legislative branch wants to as well. We want to be strong and work together. So I appreciate the support on the resolution and the motion there. Mr. Housley, do you have anything for closing comments?
No, I thought the meeting was quite pleasing tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Bryan, Attorney Bryan?
Yes, briefly, Ms. Stimpert, to answer Mr. Kropp's question, the charter amendments were effective when the County Board of Elections certified the election, which I believe was on or about November 20th. So as of then, they were effective in place. And as far as Mr. Kerlin's comments, I would second what Mr. Rufner said. These two committees that were established don't have any authority to make any rules or any, the language is solicit, evaluate options and costs, and make recommendations. So their goal is, their purpose is to gather information, make recommendations, whether it's the council and the administration, and it's up to the administration to take those or not, and whatever's under council's authority as far as spending and other matters and legislation matters, council can act based on those recommendations and the information that's gathered. So that's all I have.
Thank you for the clarification on that. Mrs. Pretty, do you have any closing comments?
Yes, I do, just a couple. Mr. Combe, I forgot in my report to have you read, I don't know if everyone saw, but I was over at the school the other day and gave the students who decorated the ornaments for the tree a proclamation and a pizza party for the efforts that they did. So I'd just like to read into the record the proclamation. But before you do that, just a couple other announcements that I want to make is that there is 444 The People is having a free turkey dinner December 15th at St. Michael's Church, and on the 16th, a holiday bingo to raise funds for the community for the holiday season. So if you're interested in any of those, it will be occurring on the 15th and the 16th. The bingo's on the 16th, and the turkey dinner, the free turkey dinner for the community is on the 15th. And they're both at St. Michael's, the old St. Michael's Church. So, Mr. Acombe.
Sure. Proclamation. Whereas Newton Falls Junior High School students Austin Drake, Bella Capasso, Caleb Klitz, Lilja Costate, Carter Drake, Aaliyah Lade, Judge Fields, and Leah Sathis volunteered their time to hand paint wood ornaments for the village Christmas tree. And whereas they created unique designs and used various paint techniques to craft each ornament. And whereas their thoughtfulness and kindness has brought joy and smiles to many faces. And whereas the village Christmas tree brings the spirit of the season to all who view and remember those ornaments they carefully made and hung as a young child on the family tree. And whereas Austin Drake, Bella Capasso, Caleb Klitz, Lilja Costate, Carter Drake, Aaliyah Lade, Judge Fields, and Leah Sathis deserve to be recognized for their hard work and the joy that it has brought the village. And whereas the village would like to acknowledge that hard work, artistic talent, and selfless volunteerism with this proclamation. And now, therefore, I, Pamela Pretty, village manager of the Village of Newton Falls, Ohio, by the authority vested in me, do hereby, on behalf of the citizens of Newton Falls, Ohio, recognize and honor the work done in the spirit of the season by Austin Drake, Bella Capasso, Caleb Klitz, Lilja Costate, Carter Drake, Aaliyah Lade, Judge Fields, and Leah Sathis for exemplifying outstanding community support with hard work and dedication to bring the spirit of the season to so many and setting the example for others by your volunteerism and support of the annual tree lighting event. In testimony whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the Village of Newton Falls to be affixed this first day of December 2023. Pamela Pretty, Village Manager.
If any of you know any of those students, please praise them, because they did do a good job for being 6th and 7th graders. They did an excellent job. When I walked in there with 80 ornaments, their faces kind of went, oh boy. But they did, and they did them on time, and it got them returned to the village so we could hang them up in time for the tree lighting ceremony. So they did do an excellent job, and they were very surprised with the party that we gave them, and they enjoyed every moment of it. I don't know if you guys saw some of the pictures, but they were even painting the icing from the cake on their faces and chocolate chips on their foreheads, and they're 6th and 7th graders, so they did a wonderful job, and so I want to thank them for doing what they did, and the art teacher, Mr. Hill, for encouraging them to complete the project on time and making it something that everybody can enjoy. So, and with that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Do we have any reason to motion to recess into executive session? Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Ms. Benitez? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes or no? To adjourn?
Ms. Benitez?
Yes. Oh, I made the motion.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
And Ms. Stemper?
Yes.
All right, 7:35.
Said two.
Well, I meant to sign.
I said that.